Pick apart the bones of broken relationships. Split away the bone from flesh, like a mother ripped from her daughter's arms and father tricked from his son's grip. That's some black magic. Break bones belonging to those longing limbs stuck in a position of an unrequited embrace. The separation of a nation starts at home. Early childhood is served up like a slap in the face, like a security blanket with eager fingers waiting to pull at either end. There was so much warmth until suddenly. Now my malnourished youth sits cold in the corner as ribcage bones punctured my lungs, preventing words that must be said from coming out. I'm gasping to speak. I'm out of order. A silent scream, inaudible like a 1980s record player stuck on the needle. Scratching my head, wondering why my wishful world remains so limited, despite my biggest dreams. My needy existence despised by empty belly, left unfed by mother's hand, thus leaving future plans unmet. The one constant, a dance with regret. We always seem to see eye to eye. We glide through all spaces in perfectly synchronized steps, and now we wistfully rest in a lover's embrace, watching to see the spectacle of vultures circling the bones of my childhood. Giant birds gathered in greedy gangs ready to feast upon the scattered carcasses of my unmaterial loose dreams, my unplans. Hyenas with familiar faces lick at my wounded heart. They lick eagerly at the bare bones, standing guard at the gates of promises kept unreleased, like the hidden away relic restricted from the public's eye. I am the Black Madonna choking on a barren memory landscape, coughing out dusty dreams, grasping at the fickle mad on her moments, realizing the momentary love from father was never coming home. Rather, this heart had been left to roam. Bones ricochet in cavernous closets, and the rattles are hard to ignore, like a hawk's squawk. Hark back to the loss of innocence as my inner senses become heightened and pictures abstract are clearer suddenly. A Picasso becomes a copy of its original African art. 12 years old, with earth laid in shattered pieces around my feet. Recognizing my prayers were just rhetorical requests on repeat. Just words that made me meters smaller as I grew inches taller. I scrambled to divide the fallen dreams trapped within the sands and start to place pieces back together again, reclaiming what was never mine, as the Europeans did in their conquest of the motherland, except I had once held my mother's hand. Peace becomes a foreign notion to a child shown the true horrors of humanity. The words genocide, apartheid, ethnic cleansing, slavery enter your increasing vocabulary and leave your pain amplified. That blissful blanket of innocence is ceremoniously lifted, world shifted, and youth is left coldly shivering in the dark side of insight as you live in your own apartheid. The separation of a nation starts at home, and incrementally you are inverted, turned inside out, downside up, and left aghast as a speared, decapitated head, wide mouth and sunken eyes, wondering why your people have continued to be asked to die. Bones picked and licked dry. Our children, when they come, will be great leaders one day. They will grow in unity, develop with peace of mind as a complete part of the family whole. The progress of a people starts with the repair of the family home, well nourished with healthy, strong bones. Ashe. Greetings, family. Greetings and welcome to the Out of Noise podcast with your host, Stella B and
Nat Nai. This is the podcast where we bring our peace
to the mic, and we welcome you back frequently to tune into our frequency. This is the Out of Noise podcast, and we are the poets, people of extraterrestrial substance, bringing you a review of what's going on in the world through our Pan-African perspective. So we welcome you back, and we thank you very, very much for joining us once again on this show. So what are we talking about today?
The 1st of Mosiah, the 1st of August. We are in the month of August, or Mosiah as we Pan-Africans like to say, because this is the birth month of the great Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The 1st of Mosiah is also Emancipation Day, and we attended the Reparations march, the reparations rally, as we have done over the past several years, on the 1st of August, the 1st of Mosiah.
Yes, we've been, so it was the 10th year of the Reparations March. I remember us being at the very first march, which I put down as 2014, but no, there was one in 2013, making this year the 10th one. And yes, we've been in attendance for a majority. We did stop because of the big C word. That was the time that I didn't go, but you did make it to the Windrush Square gathering last year. This year, they marched to the Imperial War Museum in Elephant and Castle. The frontliners were all there, and we were in attendance because we were manning a stall for SONA, School of New Africa. If you haven't already, do check that out and subscribe, and get involved in that, because that is the beginning of a lot of change, using technology to teach and educate young people and elderly as well, every age group, family units, on African history, which is being they are actually trying to take away our African knowledge once again, and they know we have to know ourselves. So please do check out that app, SONA, School of New Africa, when you get an opportunity to, and sign up and subscribe for this gamified way of educating your children on African history and subsequently world history, which African history is a part of. So we were there on the front, by the stage with our stall, promoting SONA. And so we had a great view of the day of Stop The Maangamizi Campaign. We charge genocide and ecocide. So we just want to have a little bit of a discussion. So much is there to discuss in under 20 minutes. Is something we can talk about for a very long time, but we're just condensing it because we want everyone we know to be there next year. Okay, 1st of Mosiah, Emancipation Day. We should all be there in unification, in solidarity, and standing on the front line and charging these MFs for all of the damages caused to our people over the centuries.
Absolutely. And yeah, we were there representing SONA this year. In other years, we've been a part of the artist section, hosting the artist section of the reparations march, the Stop The Maangamizi Reparations March. We feel the importance of this movement. It does concern the multitude of layers of oppression that our people have had to go through over the centuries. If the beginning point would be the transatlantic enslavement of our people, following that, colonization, following that neo-colonization that we exist in today. These have all been extremely damaging to our people on personal and also on national levels, globally. So be it that it is a Pan-African movement, it concerns Africans all over the world. So not just Africans in the Caribbean and the Americas or the African diaspora, also Africans on the continent itself, the motherland itself. It concerns all of us because we all have been subjected to great degrees of horrors. So when these conversations come up in the mainstream, it's often obscured and narrowed into a very finite view of things, as if something tragic happened in one part of a long time ago type of history, and it's been solved and there's been no other issue since, when actually what we see and observe through study is a continuation of oppression through the updating of the system. So the enslavement of African people, then the colonization of African people's lands where they are, and then what we have today, which is a lack of self-autonomy, despite the illusion of independence that make us think that are apparently different today. So reparations concerns as understood by the UN, secession concerns this stopping the different means of oppression. That is what secession means. It also concerns restitution and repatriation, which is to reestablish what we had before our interruption. And repatriation means this, getting back to the motherland is what a lot of people do anyway. Compensation, which is what most people understand reparations to be, which is financial, more time. But the Stop The Maangamizi campaign actually does not value money in that sense. And it's easy to see why when you understand inflation. And then even when you even learn more and more about the financial institutions and how the financial system actually works and what it actually is, there isn't much value in that as an African or as a person that comes from the most wealthiest resource landmass on the planet. So your money that you make up out of thin air really is not that valuable to a people of a land that produces everything that the world needs for it to function. We need something else. And satisfaction concerns basically, after all is done, are we still satisfied? There has to be a establishment of us being satisfied. So it's just covering all the blocks. So if you've agreed to stop in one area but you're continuing in another area, then that's not going to leave us satisfied. For example, the levels and layers and multitude of layers of oppression affects every aspect of our lives, just to make it clear. Satisfaction, I've just said, and rehabilitation is healing. The majority of this actually is upon us to do for ourselves, really and truly. What we want from the system, though, the establishment, is, yes, a legal and formal apology, a promise and a guarantee that you will never ever do this again. Not only just to us, but anybody else, really. Don't do it to anybody. And also the compensation in terms of land and resources, etc. Those are what we expect from them. But for us, it's more important that we do the work for ourselves, which is the healing part. The healing part, which is which Stella B is gonna guide us through.
Thank you for passing the baton. Yes, so for the healing part, which is a very key part of it, so the legals are essential to the demand that we are making against the establishment for the crimes they've committed against African people globally and still continue to commit till this day. For us, we have to do the repair work. So reparations includes the word repair, and that is the inward look about individually repairing our individual selves, repairing our families, our family units, repairing our communities, our wider communities, and then our global communities. It's about the connection that we all have, but we must fix the things that are going wrong within ourselves and get ourselves educated so that we can move towards the reparations. And the slogan goes, education is preparation for reparation. So that is another big part of what we have to do as individuals, as families, as communities. We have to do the work to get ourselves ready to be receiving. So imagine, all the money that can potentially come towards African people globally, but we haven't done any of the work. There'll be more squabbles between family. Essentially, education is key because people around the globe, Black people around the globe, have to understand their African roots and have to understand that being called African is better than being called Black. That's an education in itself, because within the political realm, when you are just a color, you're not actually a nation. You're not recognized as a nation legally. that's not even being fought for, because no other group is called yellow, brown, yellow, red. Like, that's just doesn't exist. You have to be connected to the group, and the group that we're connected to is Africa. So that in itself is repair work that needs to be done, because that is, we have a bigger, louder, resounding voice as one big, massive continent that backs up all the spaces that we dwell in. We have to also understand that we are entitled to land wherever we are as well. We are entitled to that land as human beings, but also the fact that we have been part of building this Western way that everyone is taking advantage of. We have been a part of that, African people. So we have the right to claim land wherever we reside. As part of our compensation. So there's also that understanding. Just because you learn that you claim African doesn't mean that you necessarily want to repatriate back to Africa. We do. We are more than happy to repatriate back to Africa. Yeah, live our lives out in the motherland where we are from. My mother is literally there. That's my mother's land. So I know I'm saying motherland and fatherland. Yes, mother and fatherland. But yeah, the main point I'm making is that we must understand that African unity.
Absolutely. That's what the 1st of Mosiah, 1st of August marks. It marks a time when we can come together as one voice. So wherever you are in the world, on the 1st of Mosiah, on Emancipation Day, we had representatives from, obviously, the United Kingdom, where we are, but also sorry, what? No, that's me. Oh, we also had African Brazilian. We had African American representatives. We had African Caribbean representatives, and we had Africans on the continent as well. And it's very important that we have these different groups of us from different places coming together as one. There's a general focus on African Americans when it comes to reparations. The different groups of us around the world coming together as one and talking with one voice, and giving opportunity for us to learn about what's going on in this country and that country and that country that concerns us is very important. So we are people beyond borders. And with regards to colonization, I feel like that's one of the most understated elements of our oppression. And when it does come out, you realize actually there has been mass acts of genocide upon our people on the continent itself. When it comes to identity, we've been stripped of our identity, both in the diaspora and on the continent itself. There are those of us on the continent who don't have knowledge of self, who are following the Western way or the Western designation of who we are. And I'll say it in this way, like the 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference, where Europeans came together without a single African and basically decided this is what this country is going to be called, and where this who owns what, essentially. That was not remedied under what I could describe as the illusion of independence. When it comes to the restitution element of reparations, we have to go back before the point at which you carved up our continent and decided to call us this and that based upon your needs. So when it comes to us as a people, in terms of the healing, as Stella was saying, a part of it is, or each of it is mental, spiritual, and physical. Each of it is important. When it comes to land is absolutely essential. And as Stella was saying, everywhere in the world, for the simple basis of the fact that we have particular needs, and those particular needs need to be met by us. Only we can do it for ourselves. This will alleviate or eliminate, in fact, the issues that we have in terms of the high statistics. In everything negative, we are at the top. Every single thing negative, we're at the top or thereabouts, whether it be education or health, the business realm, if you're running business, or if you're working in a job place, whatever element of life you want to think about, when it comes to something negative, we're at the top. So when it comes to ownership of land, first of all, we can provide each other with jobs, or even more important than that, we're able to yield sustainable fruit and veg, etc., that works with us. And land also, under our governance, essentially, or under our control, will enable us to be autonomous. So we are not reliant on a system for it to take care of us, which has done an extremely bad job of. In fact, with regards to racism, it's quite deliberate, I would actually say. So when it comes to the reparations, I want to make this other point as well. Like, everyone should be involved. There are people out there for years, for decades, who have been fighting for the betterment of all African people, and subsequently for all people anyway, because the African way essentially is encompassing. It is thinking about the environment. Sister Esther, who's one of the leads of the Stop The Maangamizi Campaign, she will talk on the importance of the environment. We have to consider the environment. That's the African way. We do not want to cause harm to the environment, nor do we want to cause harm to any other group of people either. So the rise and the liberation of African people is a benefit to all people anyway, and all living beings on the planet, because the African way is in consideration of all of that. We understand ourselves as the guardians of this planet, essentially, in essence. So when it comes to the liberation of our people, it should not be left alone to Pan-Africans to do that. And whatever people have gripes with Pan-Africans, one thing that they have to accept and see is that the Pan-African is the one who does not discriminate against any other group of us for any particular reason, right? They don't try and differentiate and say, no, you are there, you're there. No, we're one African people. And that's very, very key and important, because you have a group of people that is just fighting for you regardless. So I'd just say the minimal that one can do is educate themselves. The requirements, as Stella was saying, is self-healing, which is understanding your identity, and etc., working with your own family, because there's a lot of trauma within our families. A lot we will see on a micro level the issues that we have within our families without realizing actually there's an interconnectivity between many of our families and very similar stories with our families, to the degree whereby you can understand it as being systemic ripping apart of the family. And this is stretched beyond our generation now of what we see. This has happened to the baby boomer generation and a generation older than that, in terms of coming to the United Kingdom, or going to the United States, or going to these different places and leaving their children behind, or vice versa. So this has caused disruption, and this has caused all kinds of trauma in our family.
Yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot there to really unpack. This is just a really, 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 really small and condensed version of discussing the reparations and Stop The Maangamizi Campaign. In specifically, we charge genocide and ecocide. So we have to wrap it up. There is a lot to say, but we will continue this conversation in other podcasts. Lastly, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any points to make on some of the things that we've said, please comment below. We want to hear from you. We want some interaction and engagement on this podcast. We're very passionate about Out of Noise, because we are free to speak our truth and put, like a very succinct, clear view that we're not often getting in some of these podcasts out there. Shout out to the ones that are providing truth. Shout out to Fiwi Cargo. I got a free t-shirt by the Reparations March. Look at this t-shirt though. Yes, you see the down there, the honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, looking kingly and cool at the same time. Respect. So yeah, check out this apparel. There's a lovely message on this t-shirt as well, so you can buy it. I will put the information there. Big
up to Gorilla Man.
big up to Gorilla Man for creating this and his team. So if you have enjoyed this episode, do buy us a coffee and support us financially by buying us a coffee. You can put any amount, or the amount of a coffee really. And also we have merch available, so check out the Shopify link below as well, and do get in contact. As we said, if you haven't already, subscribe. If you need to, get yourself a YouTube account so you can subscribe, because you're watching this and you got to support us in those ways. The numbers count in this game. So yes, thank you so much.